I'd love to be able to sit down and study the practice tape like I used to when I worked for DallasCowboys.com. That was always one of my highlights of getting to sit down and watch the tape and kind of figure out, well, why did this work or why didn't this work? I'll say this, though. Our friends over there at DallasCowboys.com with Nicole and Kyle Yeomans, they did a good job with the 2-minute drill. Like, they had 13 minutes of, watch, okay, here we're going to do training camp live, and it's Cowboys offense versus Rams defense. And I was encouraged by that. If everything was bad leading up to that point, the one thing that kind of gave me a little bit of encouragement was, okay, they have to have this drive. They have to get in field goal position. They have to make some plays. Mm-hmm. And they made some plays.
Yeah, and you see
hey, the rest of the practice might have been dog-s, but that 12 minutes you watch, it's like, okay, they have to have this. They have to block. They have to be able to pick up. They have to be able to run routes. The quarterback can't go back there and get sacked. They got to use their timeouts right. That part of it was encouraging to me. But again, I give DallasCowboys.com and those guys a thank you for putting that part of the practice out, because that gave me a little bit of an idea. It said, okay, maybe things weren't as terrible. And it sounded bad in a lot of ways. But the fact that I got to see a little bit for myself and evaluate some of the offensive linemen and watching BB and Booker and those guys and how they were kind of picking things up, it gave me a little hope, like, okay, this practice wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, or how it sounded.
Yeah.
When you watch the clips.
Yeah, that was a nice little silver lining.
Who was doing
there.
the play-by-play with Yeomans on that?
It was Nicole Hutchinson.
Nice.
Yeah, she does. Both of them do Cowboys TV, and I think she's sideline reporter for the preseason games. I think I'm right. If it's not her or Nick Eaton, it might be one of them.
Well, she does a great job.
Yeah, but she knows her ball, and she really does a good job. Okay. I'm going to give you some names, some guys that need to have a good start to these preseason.
Are all
games.
these names on the same line, or is this like a power ranking? Like, is the first name you give me the most important, like the guy with the most important?
I would say it was. I'm just going to go off the list of my roster, how I have it, and I'll start with the offense first. Pick any wide receiver not named Lamb, Pickens, or Turpin. Mm-hmm. So that includes Holden, Flournoy. It also includes, how about Mingo, and how about Brooks? Those are the guys I think that are in the battle. I know we talked about that a little bit earlier, that where are they on the receiver levels? Mm-hmm. And I think you got 3 that are for sures. I'm not saying that Mingo and those guys will get cut, but somebody out of that group I don't think is going to be here.
Right.
I think you got to keep Mingo for the run blocking, really, the physicality that he's going to bring to the position. You need an overall upgrade in physicality and toughness on your football team, and Mingo can at least, you want to create more of a running situation, or you're third and short, you're going to take Pickens off the field or Lamb off the field. Here comes Mingo.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody else gives you a different look. Like Trayshawn Holden is just a really poor man's featured receiver who's slow, right? And maybe he can overcome that to have a role. But I feel like Mingo gives you something, a role that you wouldn't otherwise have.
I'm kind of in agreement with you on that. I've liked what I've seen from Holden. I'll tell you, the guy that's been surprisingly good throughout and been consistent has been Jalen Brooks. Mm-hmm. And I wonder, because of his toughness and his ability to play a little special teams, is he angling himself to be one of these guys? But pick any Cowboy wide receiver, not named the first 3, those guys need to be. How about John Stevens at tight end? John Stevens has been a guy that kind of the last 2 years has dealt with knee injuries. He was a guy that said, he was going to make the team. Now he's in that position where he might be battling for a practice squad spot. But he was kind of talked about initially as being a guy that maybe, the Schoonmaker, and they'll get all these guys and Span Ford, he'll be in the mix and all that. He needs to show that he can once again do this, because he's not been playing at the level that I saw at practice, that we saw a guy that was going to make the team earlier.
Yeah, pre-injury, he had the athleticism and the confidence, and now it's kind of been taken away from him.
Nate Thomas needs to have a good start at tackle. And I say this in a way because Nate Thomas has not played a lot of football. I mean, last year he was on the IR, and then as being a rookie last year, but he's going to need to get the work. he's going to need to prove to this staff that he can handle this job. He's got to go out there and show that, hey, I can line up, I can block, I can do what I have to do. I'll play with the balance, I'll play with the body control, I can do things. He did some good things in the 2-minute drill, but he had a little bit of a rough day, too, against Verse in some of those aspects. A lot of guys had rough days overall, but I think Nate Thomas needs to prove to the Cowboys that he can be that guy that they can rely on, so he needs a very, very good start as well. I think Akeem Adeniji, I think he's another guy. Adeniji has to prove to these coaches that, like, okay, is he the veteran guy that we can use as that swing tackle? Is he going to be a reliable backup? I think there's a lot to be said about him. He dealt with the concussion. He needs to have a good start in the preseason. On the defensive side of the ball, Damone Clark. I heard Damone Clark had a really nice day the other day when they started talking about the linebackers. Damone Clark, Maris Leofau, the two names that were mentioned as the linebackers that actually showed up.
Versus the Rams.
Yeah, versus the Rams in the scrimmage. So need to have him. I think there's a lot of questions now about Israel Mukuamu. I think that, and we all know him as a veteran guy and what he could potentially do. And, he can play slot, he can play safety. I think that we've seen a lot of times where the ball has gone over his head and things have gone poorly for him. I think he needs to show these coaches, and it's a new staff, listen, you got to be able to make plays. And I think that it's very, very important that he shows that in these preseason games. I think he's going to get a lot of opportunity. Andrew Booth, I'm not going to mention because I don't think Andrew Booth is good enough. I just don't. So I'm not going to mention him.
I saw Devontae Adams just tearing him up.
Yeah. Now, Zion Childers is another guy who's a cornerback. Could Zion Childers be one of these guys that replaces if he all of a sudden he has a good couple of games here? Can he be a guy that takes Israel Kwamu's spot if Israel's going backwards? There need cornerbacks here. Zion Childers has shown that he can make plays.
Yeah.
So I wonder if I think he's going to get a lot of opportunity.
I liked him, dude. He was better than Mukuamu when we were out there, and he was running with the ones a little bit today in camp. I saw Nick Harris post that. He's making plays out there. I like that, dude.
The two defensive tackles there, Tommy Akingbasati, I think, he's shown up in the scrimmage. He showed up a little bit more than Jay Toa. And so I think both of these defensive tackles, these one techniques, I'm not even going to consider Mazi Smith in this situation. Maybe Mazi Smith shows up, but every time I think that he might do that, then he does not anything. I don't think, like I watch him play, I don't know if football is really important to him right now. And so you're going to need to find somebody at this defensive tackle spot. The two rookies, I think, are the guys that both of those need to have good starts to the practices, or to the games, because if they do that, maybe that'll make the coaches feel a little bit better about the one technique. But it's going to come down to these two rookies. I just don't personally feel like that you could take Mazi Smith and really rely on him. I think that he was a crossroads player to me, like Damone Clark was a crossroads player. I just feel like that he's taken the road of, okay, I'm not going to be here anymore. The other guys are kind of taking the road of like, hey, we want to be a part of this team. So those are the guys I feel like that need to have a good start to their preseason.
Well, best
Saturday
of luck
night.
to Mazi. I think it's incredibly frustrating because you look at what went wrong after San Francisco, Green Bay, and it's really the draft of Scooney, Mazi, and Guyton, right? It's a two ones and a two.
It made Will McClay come out and say, hey, when you ask what kind of player you want, it's about players that love football. And the last two, and we'll see with Guyton and how that circles back.
I think he answered the call.
Yeah,
he's on the path.
Mazi had a chance to answer the call like Guyton did, and I don't think that's happening.
I mean, I just need to see Guyton prove that he can go out onto a football field and do things well. He's saying all the right things. He's working hard. I need to see him in an NFL game or a joint practice or something perform well in order to believe that maybe it's just one draft that's really on the hook. But one draft can bury you. Can you imagine how different we'd be looking at this defense's potential if Mazi Smith could be a run-stuffing, one-technique defensive tackle, and you take him at 26 thinking this is a sure thing, right? Teams don't take one-techs in the first round, but we're going to because we need it, and this is a sure damn thing, and it's unbelievable it hasn't worked out, and it's been such a failure. If he was just average.
Yeah.
I know. He's been so bad.
I don't think football is really important to him. It's like I said this a bunch. Football is a tough game, and for you to be a part of a team like that, you show toughness. I don't question that. I just don't think he loves to play the game like he needs to. And
I don't blame him.
That's the problem.
I don't. No way I would have played football. I guess at that position, right? Make me a quarterback, make me a wide receiver, a corner, somewhere I'm having fun. Can I be an edge? Can I be a QB hunter? But those guys in the middle, pretty much, the guards, the center, the defensive tackles, they're like just lining up and bludgeoning each other for 3 hours. It's insane. Like, you got to love that level of violence and love football and love being part of a team to, like, sacrifice to go through that.
It's tough.
Or you're chasing money.
Yeah.
And once you get first-round pick money, it's guaranteed for 4 years. I'm done.
Yeah.
It's
very, very tough for him to have that kind of attitude.
If he'd been a second rounder, he'd still be chasing the cash. But I don't think there's any hope. And I guess you only hang on to him now so you don't have to suffer the humiliation of the possibility that he goes somewhere else.
I wouldn't be surprised they move on. I wouldn't be surprised if they move on.
End of camp cut.
I wouldn't, yeah.